Hari Bowl. It's me, Harry Bowl. Trying out my new Krishna turban because I'm a Gopa. Uh, I was gonna plan ahead and well, guess what? I do have. If you give me 1 second, I'm gonna put on a cool background here. You're gonna be blown away. Wow, so Krishna conscious. Wow, amazing. Here it comes. Are you ready? We recommend using a green screen. I know I don't have a green screen. And now my turban is gone. So no more of that. Da, 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 da. Back to my normal self. Harry Bowl here, but I got a cool background. Anyway, Hare Krishna, everyone. Thanks for coming. We are just going to continue reading as we have been. I thought one new thing I could do today is read the invocation prayers at the beginning, like of the introduction of the Gita, just in English, which is something I think the only time I did this where I wasn't just repeating after someone else in the class. This is bugging me out, this background. I guess I'll need to get a green screen. Anyway, I think the first time I ever read the Gita is the only time besides now where I actually read these prayers. So let's give it a go. On page 1. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, along with his elder brother Sanatan Goswami, as well as Raganuta Das and Raganuta Bhatta, Gopala Bhatta, Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar, Srivas, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani, lots of long vowels there, and Sri Krishna, along with their associates, Sri Lalita, Lalita, and Vishakha. Oh, my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold and who is the queen of Vrindavan. You are the daughter of King Rishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and who are full of compassion for the fallen souls. I offer my obeisances to Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivas, and all the others in the line of devotion. Hare Krishna. I got to be honest, these sound way better in Sanskrit. When I sometimes do I forget what they're called, but when you offer food, Namo Vishnu Padaya and the other two, um, I get more benefit sometimes when I say those in English because it brings me more into the reality of what I'm actually doing with the offering. But a lot of these prayers, like a lot of them is just saying the names, Raghunatha, Sanatana, Srivas, Gadadhar, and so on. And when you say it within the Sanskrit meter of these well-designed mantras, it makes a lot more sense. It's actually, except for the first one, which is the main reason I wanted to do this, to Om Jnana Timirandasya. I really like that one, and I wanted to read it in English. So next time, maybe we'll skip the other ones and just do that in Sanskrit. I don't know. We left off last time at 227, I'm pretty sure. Man, horrible lighting in here, eh? That's my neighbor, Emmanuel. He's saying hi, and I must say hi back to him as well. Hare Krishna. Oh, here's another banner. Give me a hairy bowl. Put a hairy bowl in the chat if you're here and you want to rock and roll with a hairy bowl. Give me a Harry. Not Harry Potter. Harry Bowl. I just want to double check. I'm pretty sure it's 227, but quick check is good. Once again, I'm not prepared. But we're here and we're partying. Partying with Krishna and the Gita, 227. Oh, here's one thing I can do while I look for that verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 27. For one who has taken his birth, death is certain. And for one who is dead, birth is certain. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Okay, so this verse is like a summary of a lot of the other ones we did into a single verse, meaning Krishna spent quite a while in a few different verses talking about how birth and death are unavoidable. It's part of this life, and then the nature of the soul, and so on. And then Krishna did a verse or two saying, okay, Arjuna, now it's time to fight. And it seemed Arjuna wasn't quite ready. So now Krishna took that whole argument and put it into these two sentences together, which is basically just a summary. And there's a small purport for it as well. And it looks nice. Let's read it. One has to take birth according to one's activities of life. And another supplementary verse that has that same lesson in it is 4:13. That's where Krishna explicitly talks about Varnashram Dharma and how it's based on one's activities of life. And one other thing. It's like, but let me make sure I actually got that right verse for you. I think it's 4:13. Yep, 4:13. Oh yeah, it comes from the material, your occupation. That means your activities of life, and also the material modes. Whatever material mode you're in, as well as your occupation, determines your varna and ashrama. Moving on. After finishing one term of activities, one has to die to take birth for the next. In this way, the cycle of birth and death is revolving, one after the other, without liberation. I was just thinking about how my neighbor dropped by just before the stream to say hi and give me some reading. And then I was thinking, even if he didn't, I still wouldn't have been ready and prepared with like getting a good background set up and all this other stuff. I've been thinking about it all week, but then I was like, oh, it's 3:30. Oh, I might as well just like keep finishing this thing I'm watching. Next week, guys. Next week will be a lot better. In this way, the cycle of birth and death is revolving, one after the other, without liberation. It is a cycle, not a line. Time is not linear. It is cyclical. But the cycle of birth and death does not support unnecessary murder, slaughter, and war. That's why I wanted to read this purport. I could look ahead and see that one line talking about murder. I said, that's going to be interesting and relevant with what's happening in Ukraine. At the same time, violence and war are inevitable factors in human society for keeping law and order. Totally relevant. The Gita is always relevant, but now, interestingly enough, we have a war going on, and here we are at the second chapter where, and the first chapter and the second chapter are really, a lot of it has to do with the war, the battle of Kurukshetra, where Arjuna and Krishna find themselves. This battle, being the will of the Supreme, was an inevitable event, and to fight for the right cause is the duty of a kshatriya. Why should he be afraid of or aggrieved at the death of his relatives, since he was discharging his proper duty? He did not deserve to break the law, thereby becoming subjected to the reactions of sinful acts, of which he was so afraid. By avoiding the discharge of his proper duty, he would not be able to stop the death of his relatives, and he would be degraded due to his selection of the wrong path of action. There's one thing about Ukraine that's stuck in my head. I saw this video of these 13 guys, Ukrainian guys, on the island of, what was it called? Sunland Island. It's 13 guys against a massive warship, and who knows what else from the Russian military is coming. The Russian military tells them straight on, you must surrender. Not must. They said, we highly advise you to surrender your arms while we take over this island. And they're like, no, man, it's our island. And then they all died. And Russia took the island because Russia is huge, with a huge military. And these are 13 guys with like little rifles. They have no chance. And I mean, I know things are more traditional over there in Ukraine, far more traditional. Like this would never happen in America. They would be running for that white flag as soon as possible, right? But what those soldiers did is probably exactly what Krishna would tell them to do, based on this text and that situation. Although military science is exactly that; it's a science, and so I don't know if they had time to message their general or whoever their superior was. And if their superior said, yeah, you have to fight till the death, and that's what they did, then that is honorable. Now, I still don't agree with all these people calling them heroes. You're not a hero for doing your duty. Sorry, that's not how it works. Just because your job involves more bravery than another job doesn't mean you're a hero. Am I, working miracles because I'm teaching and students are learning? No, I'm just teaching, man. That's just what I do. But what if I'm a lot better than all the other? No, that just means I'm good at what I do. So the sentimentality that we see in these rich people countries are directly opposed to dharma, which is what I'm interested in and hope to read more about now. 228. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when they are annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? I think I remember Hridayananda Maharaj quoting this verse when he was talking about the fall of the jiva thing, which is not even worth mentioning anymore. But it's another way of saying what Krishna already said, which is that there are things that are eternal and there are things that are temporary, and there is nothing else. That's it. And you are eternal. And Krishna tells Arjuna, you are eternal. You will not die, just as you were not born. So what need is there to lament? This is all just illusion, basically. You're in the matrix, and oh man. Oh. This is exactly what I was watching just before the stream started with I think it's called Free Guy on Disney Plus, and it's like that It's like this Grand Theft Auto game, which is the Matrix. It's like the movie The Matrix and Mahamaya. It's all the same thing. It's Plato. Plato called it, the cave allegory, whatever. It's all the same thing, just different variations on the same theme. And in this movie, like this one NPC, he he becomes self-aware and he's trying to escape the Matrix. There's so many funny things about this. Like, are the movie makers trying to give hope to the actual NPCs that are alive today? It is so funny, man. But it's the truth. Like, we are actually in a simulation. That's actually true. It's not, I wouldn't call it a computer simulation. It's not some sci-fi thing. It's just illusion. This, because material reality, matter itself, is just illusion. And that's what, all these like quantum physicists are just, oh, there's the atom. Oh, but then there's the electron, and they keep going small, and they're like, wait, but it's not actually a thing. It's like energy. But then what's the energy? And like, it's all smoke and mirrors, man, by design. And just when you find the smallest thing ever, you find another smallest thing. It never ends. Just like when you go to the macro level, you keep going bigger and bigger. It never ends because it's supposed to look that way, because it's a loop. It's an infinite loop until it's dissolved and restarted again. It's just illusion. Now that begs the question, if this is all illusion, why not just go around killing people, raping, and doing whatever you want to do? Well, that's actually a solid argument, believe it or not. And it's really important that we have a good rebuttal to that argument. Namely, I mean, one of the obvious things is, well, guess what happens when you do that? Yeah, you'll get away with it for a short term. You will. And then what? Then your next life is in hell, and then it's even harder to get out of that place. You'll keep trying to do it. Oh, I'm the Lord of the reality. I can do everything I want. And you keep suffering more and more and more. So self-interest is the rebuttal to that argument. Eternal self-interest, meaning real self-interest, not illusory self-interest, not false ego self-interest, real ego self-interest. That is the key to everything. Accepting, this is the purport to 228, accepting that there are two classes of philosophers, one believing in the existence of soul and the other not believing in the existence of the soul. Either case has no cause for lamentation. Non-believers in the existence of the soul are called atheists by followers of Vedic wisdom. Yet even if for argument's sake we accept the atheistic theory, there is still no cause for lamentation. The basic statement there is that, like, well, if we're just dead matter, I'm dead matter, you're dead matter, and then we just have this one life and we die and that's it, then who cares? Everyone you know and everyone know, they're already dead anyway. You're already dead. So just have fun. And from that perspective, this is why atheism leads to societal and moral degradation, because when you really believe that, there isn't actually a strong enough will to do the right thing anymore. And so atheist humanism, it always fails, or secular humanism as they call it, it always fails. I mean, it runs good for a time, but it can never totally work. And interestingly enough, also earlier, an hour ago, I was watching a talk with Bishop Barron, and he mentioned how this is really important that a lot of people either don't realize or don't remember. Social justice, when it first came around in the 60s with Martin Luther King Jr. and that whole civil rights movement, most all of those leaders and figureheads there were religious. They were pastors, preachers. They were, this was Bible based. And there was hope and positivity to it. And it worked. It actually worked pretty much. Maybe not ultimately, but it really got the job done. Now, social justice today is devoid of that religious aspect, and it gets really dark really fast. And that's how reality is designed. We, as humans, are supposed to stay under the protection of our Father and be dependent on Him and be okay with that. When we start saying, "Oh no, Dad, we're grown up now. We don't need you. We're going to do everything that we can." Okay, this is a perfect time for the other mask I have. This one's so cute. I love my baby. Listen, Daddy, I don't need you anymore, okay? I don't need you. I do whatever I want, and then when I'm done committing all the sins I ever need and want to do, then I just say Hare Krishna, and then all my sins are absolved, right? I'm a good baby, and this is my baby duck, and he's a good friend just like me. Let's see if will it pick up. No, this technology is amazing. Like, it's so smooth. I don't even know. Like, it's just changing the eyes a little bit, and of course the ding a ding a ding a ding a ding. Baby, bye bye, baby. Let's bring back Harry Bull. Now, Harry Bull is an important character because Harry Bull is one of these guys who knows the truth, which is that when you're done getting triple vaxxed, you better get triple initiated. Otherwise, you ain't ever going back to Godhead. That's Harry Bull. That's what he's all about. Triple vax, quadruple mask, quintuple initiated. Man, that's the. If you don't do that, if you don't wear 2 dhotis at least at the same time, you're just going to hell. I mean, you shouldn't even try. Okay, bye-bye, Harry. Oh, give us a Harry Bowl. Give us a Harry Bowl in the chat room there. Give us some Harry Bowls. Give me a yo. Moving on in the purport here. Apart from the separate existence of the soul, the material elements remain unmanifested before creation. I think this is one of those blah, blah, blah parts I can kind of skip. Air is generated from this and that. Okay, let's keep going. Even a big skyscraper, eventually it turns into dust, of course. Yeah, that's the same argument I had already said. It's all dead matter, so what's the difference? Either in the stage of manifestation or unmanifestation, it's no different. Now, if we accept the Vedic conclusion, antavata ime deha, that these material bodies are perishable in due course of time, nityashokta saririna. That's a garble. But that soul is eternal. That's nitya is eternal there. Soul is eternal. Then we must remember always that the body is like a dress. And why should you lament if you change a dress or you? I mean, sometimes you got a favorite T-shirt and you lose the favorite T-shirt. That happened to me. I had a Tool shirt, and I didn't lose it. I wore it so much, and I raged so hard with it that the collar, right where it's sewn right there, it just came right off, and it started getting holes in it because I just worn it so much. So now I'm thinking about. I'm actually so happy that I got that. It's the one of the only piece of garments I've had my whole life that I fully used. Anything else, it's either I lose it or I give it to someone else or I just don't like it anymore or whatever. But being able to use something until it's fully used, that's very Native American of me. What can I say? The material body has no factual existence in relation to the eternal soul. One more time. The material body has no factual existence in relation to the eternal soul. It is something like a dream. That's very nice that Prabhupada says like a dream. He could have been even stronger and said it is a dream. It is illusion. But no, it's also the temple of God at the same time, Paramatma is living right here in the body. Um, and so we should take care of it, but we can't get attached to it. And that is one of the trickiest things you can do, right, is to take very pristine, excellent care of your physical and subtle body to the point where you have a perfect body and people are like, oh my God, he's so beautiful, she's so hot, whatever, and he's glowing and this and that. But at the same time, you have zero attachments to it. That's very difficult. I don't think I've met a single person like that. Um, and actually, that's speaking a little personally now. That's one reason why I've deliberately avoided taking good care of my physical body, because I've seen so many of these guys. These, like Joe Rogan is in this group of people who's like the fitness nuts, health nuts, and it takes over their ego. They get what they wanted. They get this perfect body and they're healthy and all that stuff, but the toll it takes on the subtle body and the soul is, for me, too much to bear. I mean, just witnessing it in others is unbearable for me, and I've really avoided that in myself. So I focused instead on the subtle body, which has a different kind of suffering, because now, with all the detachment and transcendence I've achieved with the subtle body, which doesn't match my physical covering, people think I'm just another guy, but I'm not really. So I have to deal with that accordingly. But it's what it's my karma. It's what I chose. I can't complain. It's just, this is a particular curse and blessing in disguise that some of us have. In a dream, we may think of flying in the sky or sitting on a chariot as a king, and we can if we're lucid. But when we wake up, we can see that we are neither in the sky nor seated on the chariot. The Vedic wisdom encourages self-realization on the basis of the non-existence of the material body. One more time. The Vedic wisdom encourages self-realization on the basis of the existence of the non-existence of the material body. That's Raja Vidya. That's like, it's one of the most basic things to get, is that this material body is just a dress. And the actual self has very little to do with this body. Very little. What all the karma we accrue, it sticks in our subtle body, and then we get the next body after death. But beyond the subtle body, the soul, Satchidananda. There's no karma there. For me, I've found it's useful to learn more about my subtle body and my past blessings and sinful reactions, so that I can be better to cease and desist from the bad things in the future. But as far as the soul, on the soul level, it doesn't matter. It's non-existent. The physical body, the subtle body, it doesn't matter. It's even less than a dress, because for how many millions of lifetimes we have compared to the eternity of the soul, the insignificance of the material body cannot be overestimated or underestimated. It's very insignificant. Therefore, in either case, whether one believes in the existence of the soul or one does not believe in the existence of the soul, there is no cause for lamentation for the loss of the body. Another conclusion from Prabhupada, based on the conclusion by Krishna, Sri Krishna. 29. Some look on the soul as amazing. Some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. I'm smiling because I'm thinking about, there's lots of with anything you're reading, especially ancient wisdom stuff like this, there's a lot of symbols and inside jokes for other things. So the soul is, like I mentioned earlier, Raja Vidya, the king of knowledge, or the secret king, or the secret of all knowledge, whatever, which is basically that this soul is not the body. And realizing that makes everything so much easier. If you want to be a devotee, a pure devotee, a demigod, whatever you want to do, what want to be, when you fully realize in the heart this Raja Vidya, it's like it's going from white belt to brown belt or black belt in like one instant. I'm maybe exaggerating, but probably exaggerating. Anyway, the soul, for me in this verse, soul is a placeholder. Not placeholder, soul is the soul, but I mean, it also refers to something, a kind of knowledge or learning that is really difficult to obtain. That's like, we are the soul, but to realize that we are the soul and really live it like that is is like unobtainium. I mean, you try to go in there with your guns and your, "We're white people, the Constitution and the guns and and then, like the Fern Gully natives are like, no, but we're really nice, and like, you know what I mean. It's unobtainium. It's called that because you can't obtain it, and that is the soul. And so, I mean, that's the last part of the verse. Even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. That's the story of my life. Around here, around most Americans I meet, even most devotees, I teach them things, I tell them things, they don't get it. They can hear about it, they can see. Once in a while, I get someone who nods their head like they're getting it. They still don't get it. And those who do get it are like, wow, this is amazing. Whether you see him as amazing or hear him, whether you see the knowledge as amazing or you hear it as amazing, it's like, wow, that's amazing. Then others, they can like, you look them right in the eye, you tell it to them explicitly, the science behind it and everything, they still go, cool story, bro. Bye. And once again, this verse is found in an Upanishad as well. It's a little bit different. Or is that the one that we already mentioned earlier? Yeah. I think Prabhupada already mentioned that same. That's why he's not saying the number, because he already mentioned this same exact passage in the Katha Upanishad earlier. This is so cool. The fact that the atomic soul is within the body of a gigantic animal or banyan tree or microbic germs, millions and billions of which occupy only an inch of space, is certainly very amazing. Men with a poor fund of knowledge and men who are not austere cannot understand the wonders of the individual atomic spark of spirit, even though it is explained by the greatest authority of knowledge, who imparted lessons even to Brahma, the first living being in the universe. So, to get more personal here in a way that you won't like, there are two kinds of men Prabhupada talks about. Those with the poor fund of knowledge and those who are not austere. Most Americans I met, most Westerners, are the latter. You're not austere. You've got so many sinful conditioning from past lives, from this life. So you can, but because you're Westerner, because you're modern, and you've gone through all these years of school, you have excellent knowledge. Actually, you're better than the Easterners at this. You're better. You're better than even these like Chinese Indian immigrants who graduate from Harvard and stuff. You're still smarter than them when it comes to knowledge, scientific knowledge, dead knowledge. You're very smart. But if you don't have austerity or ethos or adhikari, if you don't have the eyes to see, then you'll never see. This is not a knowledge game. then again, at the same time, as Krishna says later here in the Gita, knowledge is better than renunciation. Knowledge is still great, but there's dead knowledge and living knowledge. And like vidya is like living knowledge. It's realized knowledge that's like actually moving around in your heart. Jnana is dead knowledge. And as long as you're not attached to it, it's fine. But if you have the best jnana in the world, if you're the number one jnani and you're really attached to it, you're in a horrible place. That is suffering. It's really hard to be a good devotee like that, or whatever you want to be. That's advanced or transcendental. Sorry if I offended you. Just give me a hairy bowl. Give us a hairy bowl in the comment section, everyone. There it is. Give me a hairy bowl. Hairy bowl. Pure devotee syndrome is hairy bowl. You know it. I don't know. I'm not actually totally sure what that means. But Harry Bowl, this character that I haven't fleshed out yet, is an ironic character, obviously. Harry Bowl is the guy who does all the externals and and thinks he's number one devotee. He thinks he's the most humble, and he brags about how humble he is, and he tells other people how to be devotees all the time. Quite often, Harry Bowl is a she. Anyway, give me a Harry. Harry Potter. Oh, I don't know where I was at. Oh, 29 purport. Oh, God, I love Prabhupada. He's really giving it to us here. Owing to a gross material conception of things, most men in this age cannot imagine how such a small particle can become both so great and so small. Achintya beta abeda. So great and so small at the same time. That's, for me, within the Achintya beta abeda category of things. So men look at the soul proper as wonderful, either by constitution or by description. Illusioned by the material energy, people are so engrossed in subject matter for sense gratification that they have very little time to understand the question of self-understanding, even though it is a fact that without this self-understanding, all activities result in ultimate defeat in the struggle for existence. Perhaps one has no idea that one must think of the soul and also make a solution of the material miseries. Whoa! So harsh and polite at the same time. I don't know if you guys are picking up on this. What Prabhupada's looking at all of us Westerners and he's saying, like, you can at least do both at the same time. You know that, right? Like, just like spend some time meditating on the soul and then spend some time working on solving your material miseries as well. Whereas most people are even lower than that. They're just saying, more, give me more, more money, more women, more Build Back Better program, Build Back Better program, more trillions. And when you get caught up in that and only that, everything is defeated. As he says here, it's ultimate defeat in the struggle for existence. So just by struggling to exist, you're defeated, which is so depressing. And that's exactly what's happening in the world today. By the world, I mean especially some countries more than others, unfortunately. Curious what this Russia-Ukraine thing will happen, because from my perspective, both countries are good. Like, they're both traditional, conservative, religious places, and that's why ISKCON, Hare Krishna's, Harry Bowles and Hare Krishnas have been so successful in both countries because it's already conservative. They're already like close enough to this dharmic culture. You just give them a little bit of the name and they run with it. And they have a solid foundation too, where they run with it and they don't become pedophiles. They run with it and actually do great things. Sorry for my offenses. I'm not saying, obviously, I'm not saying everyone is a pedophile, but there are tons of scandals in after Prabhupada left, and maybe even during when he was here. Anyway, some people who are inclined to hear about the soul may be attending lectures in good association, but sometimes, owing to ignorance, they are misguided by acceptance of the super soul and the atomic soul as one without distinction of magnitude. It's very common. That's what you see in, I think, a lot of these guys like Ram Dass and Eckhart Tolle. We're all one. And it is true in a sense, but it's not the whole truth. Anyway, I still take their side over the atheists any day, man. I'd love to hang out with Ram Dass. That'd be cool. Or Eckhart Tolle, any of those guys. I think that'd be, I mean, it's easy for me to say. I've already, found what I needed to find. But anyway, it is very difficult to find a man who perfectly understands the position of the soul, the super soul, the atomic soul, their respective functions, relationships, and all the other major and minor details. Okay, interesting here, Prabhupada mentions the soul and the atomic soul as two different things. I don't actually know what he's talking about. From my understanding, it's just there's the soul and the super soul, and that's it, pretty much. I'm guessing initially that atomic soul means like the soul within like smaller creatures, but that still doesn't make sense. The souls should all be equal as souls. Anyway, someone else can answer that for me in the chat or comments, hopefully. And it's still more difficult to find a man who has actually derived full benefit from knowledge of the soul and who is able to describe the position of the soul in different aspects. But if, somehow or other, one is able to understand the subject matter of the soul, then one's life is successful. To describe the position of the soul in different aspects. Interesting. Different aspects of the soul. That is definitely not easy. Most of the work I do, my own internal work with psychology, it kind of rides the line between subtle body and like it's somewhere in between like my real ego and the soul. That's like a lot of what I work on figuring out and getting better at. But soul proper is a higher level than a lot of what I work at day to day. And it's my understanding that soul proper is just pure. So the only aspects of the soul that I know of are Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Whereas the real ego, as opposed to the false ego, like, there's like this, the senses, then mind, then intelligence, then false ego. Above that, I would say, is real ego, and above that is the soul. So the real ego for a human has all this personality to it. Whereas I think the soul is an individual personality, but the personality of the soul proper, as opposed to the real ego, it's really hard for me to see the distinction there. Maybe what I'm working on that I call real ego is the soul, but I don't think so, because I mean, when I learn things about myself, my real self, it's always covered by some sort of material thing, but it's still, but it's not false ego, because I know it's real ego, because there isn't attachment to the body or like material desires or anything like that. A lot of that's not there anymore, but there's still this like, there's still something there that's in between the soul and the false ego for me in my experience. Hot take on Ukraine, gotta catch them all, just like Pokemon. You know how we do. Well, Ukraine is hot right now. They're hot with fire. They're hot in the news. I don't want to. I mean, I'm just funny, so I joke about everything. But Acharya Dev, my Diksha guru, sent out a prayer earlier, and he asked all the other devotees to make prayers. And I think that's a good idea to pray for other devotees there. But like I said, for other, like for the soldiers in Ukraine, in this tiny little country with like very little defenses, and like, what are the allies doing? They're just saying, oh, well, your economy is going to be really bad now, Russia. Well, guess what? Russia's been working on self-sustainable, what's it called? Self-sufficiency forever. And Russia, I think, is prepared to actually feed themselves, clothe themselves. And apparently they've been hoarding gold like nobody's business. So, oh, and I saw one guy in a comment saying, oh, Dinesh D'Souza was saying that uh you know, Putin, a guy like Putin is looking at the West with like, oh, I wish I could remember the exact words Dinesh said because it was so sharp. But it was like, you know, these like Biden and Pelosi, these like crippled old people with like their, you know, fanciful ideas, and just how weak and pathetic they are. And then there's like Macron and like Boris and like all these other Western leaders are just pathetic human beings. They're just like so beta. They're so weak. They're so soy boy. Like, I want to say feminine, but then that would be insulting to like actual like women that I do, and girls that I do actually, you know, love. Like, and like bhakti yoga is a largely feminine process, as well as judo, my favorite thing in the world. So I don't have a problem with femininity, but like feminine vice, that's actually what we got here as our leaders. The leaders of the Western world are vicious, meaning they're sinful. It doesn't mean they're like, I mean, yeah, many of them are vicious where they're like trying to like hurt people, but they're suffering from vice, which is the opposite of virtue, and it's a feminine vice. Masculine vice is like very different. It's like on the nose, like I'm gonna kill you. Like masculine vice, you can see it a mile away, like hanging people, and like, you know, it's like very brutal and like obvious. So if you want to stop masculine vice, it's, you know, you have something to work with. But feminine vice, with all the chaos and subtlety there, oh man, it's like for a society, it's absolutely crippling, which is exactly how it's supposed to happen. If you believe in Kali Yuga, by believe I mean if Vidya, if you've realized that Kali Yuga is an actual thing and we're actually in it, then you would expect that just as Satya Yuga is masculine virtue, Kali Yuga is feminine vice, the opposite of that, upside down. That's what we're moving towards. Like, in for as far as I can tell, like American culture is like pretty much already there. Like the mainstream culture is completely upside down. What you're allowed to do and promoted to do is sin. What you're uh, disincentivized to doing is virtue. It's upside down. The whole thing's upside down. Men are supposed to act like women. Women are supposed to act like men. The whole thing's upside down. Um, and that's supposed to happen. That's what Kali Yuga means, that good becomes bad, bad becomes good. And it's not that like men are better and that's why men are leaders. It's men are men. The male energy as is leadership itself. That's what it is. It's the thing that leads and penetrates. The female energy, the yang, or sorry, the yin, yin and yang, the is the receptor, is sensitive, is vulnerable. It takes the penetration and domination of the leader. And there's excellence to both. Both sides have to do their job excellently for, that would be Satya Yuga. For like the ideal life is like men are men and men are excellent men, women are women and they're excellent women, and children are children and they're excellent children. And like everyone, that's Dharma. Everyone has their role and they stay in their role and they do their role excellently. That is Dharma. And Kali Yuga is the destruction of Dharma globally across the human race. That is Kali Yuga. And that's my hot take on Ukraine. Haribol. I was watching Acharya Dev earlier, and just before he's answering someone's question, he goes, "Are you sure it's okay? You ready for me to launch? Because once I launch, I'm going to rant for a long time. You sure I'm ready? You sure you're ready?" Anyway. The easiest process for understanding the subject matter of self, however, is to accept the statements of the Bhagavad Gita spoken by the greatest authority, Lord Krishna. Krishna. I'm trying to get better at that name. Is it? Because normally we're lazy and we just say Krishna. That's the American accent playing through Krishna. But Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. I actually have to ask my guru the right way to say that name. It's hard to tell. Most people I meet say it's actually Krishna. It's the Krishna. And I can say Krishna by himself one time, but Krishna, Krishna, saying it fast like in japa with the long I sound, it's hard. It's hard to do that. Anyway, so accept what's spoken without being deviated by other theories. Okay, that's really important. We need to do that one more time. The easiest process for understanding the subject matter of self, however, is to accept the statements of the Bhagavad Gita spoken by the greatest authority, Lord Krishna, without being deviated by other theories. Period. And that is true. And that's exactly what I did, actually, when I first read the Gita, which is amazing. It's hard to believe myself I was able to do this, but I mean, it's if you're not retarded, pardon my language, but if you're not a complete dummy and you've studied, something like Aristotle or Confucius, you have some, knowledge of the classics and of history, and you see someone and meet someone or read about someone like Srila Prabhupada, and you see his position, you're going to accept what he says. He's maha maha. He's at that level. Like when I read Aristotle, I don't think, well, that's just his opinion, but I'm going to go looking around with someone else. No, this is like the smartest guy in all of Western history. I'm going to take very seriously what he says. One of my best devotee friends is talking about, say, "Hey, come join me on the live video," and then the thumbnail that it suggests is just me like, duh, with a hairy bowl. It's so funny. Oh man, did I get some other comments here. Are the cyber attacks real? I don't know. I haven't looked into this yet. It's just something I heard about. I can't speak about it. Grandmas are putting sunflower seeds in Russian soldiers' pockets and cursing them. So basically, Ukraine won already. That's really funny. Um, okay, but we need to clarify. Which grandmas? Are these Ukrainian grandmas or Russian babushkas? Because if it's the Russian grandmas that are, you know, man, I'm so bad with words today, sabotaging their own soldiers, that's a big deal. And if it's the Ukrainian grandmas, how are they getting close enough to these soldiers to put in like sunflower seeds in their pockets? I don't know, man. I don't know if I believe this. Are you calling the West soft? Oh, snap. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. We're very soft. We didn't used to be. Back in the Crusades, just 200, 300 years ago, the founding of America. Oh my God, think about it, man. This country, the early pilgrims and colonialists, whatever you want to call them, they were taxed something like 4% on like tea and basic goods, and then the British increased the tax to like 8% or 7%. It went up a few points, and then we killed people. We just started murdering, and it turned into a war with armies against armies over like 3%. Now, if you do the math, most middle class and lower American families give more than 50% of their income in taxes to the government. And what do? They just say, oh, well, I can afford a pumpkin cheesecake latte, so not bad. I mean, I got my Netflix subscription. What else do I need? Oh, yeah, we're soft. That's the truth. Oh, no. Prabhu got some COVID or a flu. He'll be better. Nothing to worry about. Most of us young people have nothing to worry about when it comes to this physical viral illness crap. Doesn't matter. I beat COVID like a boss. Almost done with the purport here. But it also requires a great deal of penance and sacrifice, either in this life or in the previous ones, before one is able to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna can, however, be known as such by the causeless mercy of the pure devotee and by no other way. And for most people like myself, it was definitely previous lifetimes where we earned the right to be where we are now. I did nothing in my life. I mean, compared to my peers, I mean, I've done good things and I'm doing well, but I haven't done any real sacrifices in my life to earn God. Like, no, I don't buy that. 230. O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body is eternal and can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any creature. Okay, I want to keep going. Jesus Christ, it's already an hour here. So let's skip that purport. 31. Considering your specific duty as a kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles, and so there is no need for hesitation. Okay, perfect. A lot we can talk about here. One, it's very important that Krishna says religious principles. That is the ideal kshatriya, is Arjuna in this instance right now, where on one mundane level, Arjuna is fighting as a warrior because his general commanding officer is telling him to. And that's true for every kshatriya. That is a good thing to do. But there's a big difference between just following your boss because you want to get your paycheck and following your boss because he is God himself. And the thing he's asking you to do is a holy, righteous thing to do. That is still different. I mean, there's many levels here, and it's the same for Vaishyas, Sudras, Brahmanas. There's the mundane duty itself of the Varna, and then there's the ideal epitomized example of that, which is based on religious principles, as it says here. So instead of doing something just for money or out of fear, because if you don't do it, you're fired, Instead of acting based off fear or lust or envy or all the other material conditioned propensities, if you're doing it out of Dharma or Sanatan Dharma, that is the whole point of having a Varna. That's why Varna exists. And I mean, especially as a kshatriya, that's what Krishna is really stressing here, because like that's the kshatriya nature, is like dying for the right cause, like death in battle is a good thing. That's how you know you're a kshatriya, because you think, when you start fantasizing about a great battle you're going to be in, and then possibly dying, and you smile, that's how you know you're kshatriya. You've got that nature. So when someone who is a kshatriya, like Arjuna, and starts lamenting and getting fearful and anxious and all this, it's not only is this taking Arjuna away from doing his mundane duty as a kshatriya, it's also getting in the way of him following the Lord and his spiritual master as well. So it's a big problem. Ukrainian grandmas, it's their version of, you're going to push up daisies. I know that saying, you're going to push up daisies, but I can't like touch it in my mind of what it actually means. And yeah, sometimes you see it on the interwebs. I know it, man. The worldly pipes going around everywhere. What can we do these days? Sometimes you got it, sometimes maybe you don't, or you do. No one can say. Who can say? I can't say. Prabhupada can say. Krishna can say. And we listen. We're good boys and girls, and we just try to listen. Okay, 31. Out of the four orders of purport, out of the four orders of social administration, interesting. Social administration as a description of what Varna means. The second order for the matter of good administration is called kshatriya. Kshat means hurt. One who gives protection from harm is called kshatriya. And trayate means to give protection. So kshatriya literally means protecting others from harm. And this is kind of ironic or interesting, however you want to call it, because the one Varna who has license to kill, 007, 00, whatever numbers you like, those are kshatriyas, because they need to use harm to protect others from harm. They're the only ones who have the absolute authority in human society to do that. Maybe not. Like maybe a Vaishya can, beat someone with a stick if they're getting too close to their cow or something like that. But kshatriyas are really the guys in charge, right? Now, the kshatriyas are trained for killing in the forest. A kshatriya would go into the forest and challenge a tiger face to face and fight with the tiger with his sword. I'm thinking, like, I don't know how fair that is. Like, tigers are really fast, but if you get one good swipe with a really sharp sword, the match is over, But tigers are really fast. So I'm not saying it doesn't take bravery. Definitely does. Anyway, when the tiger was killed, it would be offered the royal order of cremation. This system is being followed even up to the present day by the Kshatriya kings of Jaipur in India. The Kshatriyas are specially trained for challenging and killing because religious violence is sometimes a necessary factor. Jihad, anyone? Therefore, Kshatriyas are never meant for accepting directly the order of sannyas or renunciation. Nonviolence in politics may be a diplomacy, but it is never a factor or principle. Huh? Nonviolence is never a principle? Oh, okay. I think he's saying, like, because politics literally means like people conquering other people. So how can you use nonviolence if your whole thing of what you're doing is like, I'm going to win, I'm going to beat you, and you're saying, oh, but I'm so nonviolent? That's never actually a factor or principle in how this works, which is exactly the insanity of the Western left today. The progressive leftist people are saying, oh, this is really the nice, sweet thing to do, so you have to do it for me right now. And if you don't, you're dead and you're fired and your bank account's frozen and all this stuff. Like, that's the insanity of it. Is they're if they were just honest and saying, yeah, we're assholes and we just want to win and we just want to conquer everything, I'd be fine with that because that's honest and you're allowed to do that, especially if you're kshatriya and, like Arjun in this situation. But when you claim that you're like this nice boy, this nice girl, and you're doing tyrannical things in the name of like niceness and all this stuff, it makes no sense. As it is stated in the law books, there's a big Sanskrit verse from who knows where. Anyway, quote, in the battlefield, a king or kshatriya, while fighting another king envious of him, is eligible for achieving heavenly planets after death, as the Brahmanas also attain the heavenly planets by sacrificing animals in the sacrificial fire. I like how it mentions envy there. Therefore, killing on the battle, on the religious principle, and the killing of animals in the sacrificial fire are not at all to be considered acts of violence, because everyone is benefited by the religious principles involved. Yeah, so that's another thing. Like Brahmanas, they are allowed to be violent as well towards animals, not towards other people, within the context of a sacrifice. Not anymore, not in this yuga. The animal sacrificed gets a human life immediately without undergoing the gradual evolutionary process from one form to another, and the kshatriyas killed in the battlefield also attain the heavenly planets, as do the brahmanas who attain them by offering sacrifice. There are two kinds of svadharmas, specific duties. As long as one is not liberated, one has to perform the duties of that particular body in accordance with religious principles in order to achieve liberation. When one is liberated, one's svadharma, specific duty, becomes spiritual and is not in the material bodily concept. In the bodily conception of life, there are specific duties for the brahmanas and kshatriyas respectively, and such duties are unavoidable. Svadharma is ordained by the Lord, and this will be clarified in the 4th chapter. On the bodily plane, svadharma is called varnashram dharma, or man's stepping stone for spiritual understanding. Human civilization begins from the stage of varnashram dharma, or specific duties in terms of the specific modes of nature of the body obtained. Discharging one specific duty in any field of action in accordance with varnashram dharma serves to elevate one to a higher status of life. Well, okay, one realization I had here, I'm a little hesitant to share it because it could show my ignorance of this word svadharma, but well, just with me personally, the way it's happened in my life is like this teaching thing has become utterly important and unavoidable for me, and not material either. Like, and I think that's what happened, is exactly what Prabhupada says here, that like at some point recently in my life, my material dharma turned into swadharma. And it's and that teaching work I do is spiritual and not material. That feels like exactly what happened to me, where even though I might be teaching algebra or English or whatever I'm teaching, it doesn't matter. Just the fact that I'm teaching, especially academically, it's like something I have to do. And if I don't do it or I don't get to do it, it's like something's wrong, like something's missing in my life. And in the same way that if I'm living and someone asks me to do something which is against my soul, on the soul level, I feel it's wrong. Like I can't do it. I'd rather go to jail. I'd rather die. Like there's some things like that that just, if you push me that way, I won't do it. I won't comply. And teaching is at that level now for me, where it's like I have to do it. If I don't, or I can't, I feel like something's really wrong here. Um, and I guess that's because it's my svadharma. So sva, I mean, as far as Sanskrit words go, I'm pretty sure I do understand this just means specific duty. But within this context, are we talking about, because then Prabhupada also mentions like just varnashram. Like, does svadharma just mean that one varna you are and the one ashram you are? Or is it more specific than that? Like within the kshatriyas, there's like the kings, or like the like on a battlefield, there's many different roles. It's like football. There's the quarterback, there's the lineman, there's the king, there's the archers. There's all these different roles. So um, like teaching, especially didactic teaching, which I'm into, and a little bit less so pedagogy. I guess would be a specific. I mean, I don't know if it's administration or Brahminical. It's somewhere in between, maybe, because in ancient societies, especially ancient Vedic agrarian society, I don't think there were teachers. I mean, there were teachers, but they were masters, that like sensei in Japan, or shifu in Chinese, like, or swami or guru. They were like you would go to the bhakti master, the bhakti swami, to learn bhakti, and you go to the sitar swami to learn sitar. Um, but like teachers as we have it today, like with schools where you just throw kids in there and there's just like a teacher that just teaches all the basic things. I think that's very new and did not happen in ancient reality. I'm pretty sure parents and aunties and uncles and grandma and grandpa, they were actually the ones in charge of what I call teaching. The teaching that I do to young children, I mean, sometimes they're in high school, they're not that young, but that kind of teaching up to get them up to the developmental stage of adult, I don't think it existed when the Gita was spoken, and even just maybe 1,000 years ago. I don't think that ever existed until very recently. So it's really hard to like fit in what's happening in current reality to the teachings we have in the Gita here. And this is one of the most exciting things that I'd like to talk about, is how to bridge that gap, because it's all water under the fridge. And as long as the water doesn't get to an electrical wire, you're not short circuited. And so if you just get a new fridge, that's really what I'm here to do. And it's a catch-23 situation, because if I do it or don't do it, I mean, who knows? You know what I'm saying? I mean, Joe Biden knows what I'm saying. That's for sure. Let's get some Biden in here. Let's have a little palate cleanser. I need some Joe. Where's there we go. When I got the face, it becomes even easier to get into the voice. And my fellow Jamaicans, we got a big problem today in Ukraine. And I mean, not Ukraine. I mean, the Russian guy with yeah, the thing. The thing. And too much fun. Okay. Okay, bridging the gap. So I've always thought teaching is more of a Brahminical thing than a Kshatriya thing, and I do think that's true. So long as you're just directly teaching, like if you're a principal in a school, that's a Kshatriya position, right? Because it's full on administration. But if you're just instructing students in the same way that a guru will instruct his disciples, and a guru is a Brahmin, in that sense, one can be considered Brahminical if they're a teacher in that sense. And that is the only kind of job that I like to have. So it's not just me. I'm not like tooting my horn or anything. There's one teacher, devotee I know in Bali. He was a teacher many years, and then he was offered the principal of the school position. And probably because he was married and had a bunch of kids, and his wife said, yeah, you better do this, more money and all this stuff. But when I talked to him, he confided in me and he told me, I don't like it. I miss the classroom. I miss teaching because that's always what I wanted to do. And now I'm, just doing all this bureaucratic nonsense. Some people are not designed, but it's their nature to do that. But pure teaching itself, I believe, would be Brahminical. And so then, but there's many different Brahminical duties. And of them, we could say that a particular kind could be our Svadharma. And when you find your own Svadharma and can yukta, vairagya, can connect that with your devotion to God, then you can have a really happy, meaningful life, which is exactly what I've been very lucky to have for the past 7 years. I mean, now it's nice because I have a bit more devotion in my life, but when I was in Vietnam and China and stuff, there were no devotees there, sometimes eating meat, drinking, doing different, this is before I was initiated. But because I had my Svadharma and I had Krishna, I was protected. And I was liberated from nearly every sinful activity I was engaging in. Most of it was having very little reaction because I was still doing the most important thing for me to do, and it's so Svadharma and Yukta Vairagya together are so powerful. They can overwhelm so many other things in your life, so many other inconveniences, and the few kinds of sufferings we have in this world from the demigods, from other living entities, and so on. Those are greatly minimized. So on that, I'll give one little piece of advice, and we'll end at 2:32 next time. Next time we'll do 2:32. So to those out there who have not yet found their Svadharma, I will say this. First, find your Varna. There's only 4 Varnas, and it's really not hard there's only 4. So it's not that hard to see which one you fit in closely enough within those 4. And if you're like one of the many suckers in ISKCON, to be honest, many people are suckers. Many devotees have been trained to think that Sudras are bad and Brahmins are good. That's nonsense. Now, I'll try to explain why it's nonsense later, but if you are one of these suckers, and you are in fact a Sudra, it's going to be really hard for you to be honest with yourself and say that you're a Sudra, because it means you're bad and you're this and that. But if by whatever chance you are able to be honest with yourself that you're a Sudra, and you accept it in your heart, and you really look out for some good Sudra work, and then you get good at certain Sudra work, and then there's one that you particularly like and are good at, it's your calling. You find your Svadharma and you do that in the name of God. That is like a magical red button, the magical red button that we're all looking for. But as I said, actually the 4 Varnas are equal. You can't say one is better than the other. In the same way, you can't say men are better than women or women are better than women. It's yin and yang. They go together. They are complementary, with an E, not with an I. Complementary. So the Kshatriyas have all the power, right? They have an attractive Varna, and oh, I don't like that guy. I can go kill him. Oh, and I have all the wealth, and I own the kingdom. It's all mine. Well, but you also have the karma of everyone in that kingdom. So if you mess up it's on your head, it's on your shoulders. So it's not all good. And the Brahmins are in charge of the Kshatriyas. So there's even more responsibility on their heads. They're in charge of truth. So if they tell something to someone which isn't true and it backfires, it's going to backfire and trickle all the way up back to them. And Sudras have it really easy. Sure, they don't have as much power, responsibility, but they have a comfortable, easy, peaceful life. And if they have a good master, a good boss, and they have a good svadharma, their Sudra work is suited to their particular nature. Like if you're born to be a sculptor, but your actual job is at an iPod factory in China. I mean, it's close enough where it might work, but it's not it's not perfect. Whereas if you should be doing metal work and you find yourself at a metal working job with the perfect master, and you've got this Bhagavad Gita here, and you start making all this metal for Krishna, I can't tell you how blissful it is. I won't even go into it. You don't need me to tell you how good that is. You know in your heart that that's what you want. You know it. So good luck finding it. Hare Krishna.